Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when and wherever you may be. I hope everyone is doing alright. Now, today I got up, I had my coffee, I had some bread because I felt like it. I was sitting down and the news. And USA apparently invaded Venezuela, killed people, bombed people, and kidnapped the um, the president of the Maduro and his wife. Well, ain't life grand? Before we start to talk, let me tell you this: I know exactly who Maduro is. Okay, I know what he has done. I know how he acts. I know that he uses dictatorial power. I know all of that shit. Okay? But the second thing is that I'm going to say is this: there is a difference between democracies and authoritarian regimes. Authoritarian regimes do whatever they want without any kind of consideration for their presumed allies, without any kind of consideration for international law, with absolutely zero respect for the minimum behavior in war and in peacetime that we are not anymore. That's the second thing I'm going to say. And the third thing I'm going to say is the consequences of these actions. And now, you are going to say, like I have heard a lot of people say, oh, they have done it before. Yes. But what you and other people, either by ignorance or by will, because you are speaking in a certain narrative, I don't care why. Frankly, I don't care why. If you say that, you are removing things from context. We are not in a Cold War. We are not in an open war, because Cold War, the only difference was that there was no direct military engagement. Okay, there was subjugate military engagement. In Vietnam, for example, the United States got their asses kicked. They lost. They have lost almost every wars that they have engaged in. They didn't win World War One or World War Two. They came in, allied themselves with a side that was stronger, that was winning during World War Two, except in the West, where they had managed to conquer France. The Germany was not able even to start an invasion of the United Kingdom, because it was engaged in a war in the East where it was losing by attrition. And if you are stupid enough not to understand this, then that's your problem. Okay, get yourselves a history book and read a bit to understand this. Take a look at how many soldiers Germany was losing in the Eastern Front, because the Russians, they did what they are doing in Ukraine. They send in cannon fodder until they overwhelmed the German positions. Okay, so but that's we can talk about that in another video. Now we are talking about other things. And during World War One, basically the same. The Reich, the German Reich, it was completely impoverished in terms of economy, in terms of resources, in terms of will of the people to continue to fight. So in both wars, World War One and World War Two, the American contribution was important. Okay, let's not disregard the soldiers that died in Normandy, for example. We are not going to disregard those people. Okay, I am not going to disregard them, because they were fighting for an ideal. even though they didn't know that they were being manipulated, just like the Germans didn't know they were being manipulated by other forces. Those people deserve our utmost respect, and I will never sit by and watch people insult those people and the veterans of those wars like if it was nothing. In fact, I will not insult any veteran of any war, even if I don't agree with it. Okay, but this is what's happening. Okay, and in Korea, it was the same. That one was a bit more direct because you had American forces engaged directly in battles in Korea, and it nearly got hot, got the Cold War hot. Okay, and then you have episodes around the world. You have episodes in Afghanistan where the United States supported the Mujahideen against the Russians, and you have a lot of things. Okay, and you have the United States trying to do the same thing to Iran revolting. Um, right now there's a lot of conflicts inside of Iran, but let's not talk about this right in this video, okay? And then the response was that what is basically a religious nationalistic movement took over power because they were supporting a corrupt government of the Shah. Okay, both the United States and the United Kingdom, but I consider the United Kingdom a client state of the United States. Okay, so when I say United States, if the United Kingdom was there too, they were there because I don't want to call them masters, but I will say the ones that tell them what to do, told them to be there, just like in Afghanistan, just like in the adventures in the Gulf War. Okay, just like all of that. It's been a debacle each and every step of the way. They were lucky enough that the Soviet Union was even worse than them. It was corrupt, it was ineffective, and you cannot whip people into submission. You know, the Romans and the Greeks, they said that willing obedience always beats forced obedience. Okay, when you have an army, when you have people that are fighting for an ideal, that are fighting what they consider to be a just war, and you have in the other side an army of slaves, the only way that army of slaves will ever win is by overwhelming the army of willing people, and even so, it will be a Pyrrhic victory, but just like what Russia is getting in Ukraine. Okay, so far, calm and reserved opinion or reserved statistics, the Russians have lost 1,200,000 soldiers. I have heard numbers that are near 2 million, but take it with a grain of salt. I do. All right, let's continue. Now, what you have to understand is that what is most important in this action, it's not the consequences. The consequences, they will be what they will be, and they will depend on a lot of factors. It will depend if the Americans had any kind of cooperation inside the military organization over this entire system that has been created in Venezuela. It will depend on the reaction of Venezuela. It will depend on the reaction of China, on the reaction of Europe, yes, on the on the reaction of Canada, on the reaction of all of those allies. And I have this feeling that both Europe and Canada are going to condemn the attack and nothing more. And then, in the background, what was already a trend, something that was already happening, of further and further and further distance yourselves from the United States, that is going to accelerate that movement in all senses. How can the United States negotiate peace anywhere if it only creates conflict. Okay, there's a lot of things that we don't know here. We don't know, but in my opinion, in my opinion, being completely pragmatic, this was a nice excuse of Trump to try and recover some of the voting that he's going to lose in the primaries right now, in the elections for Congress. If you don't understand what that is, okay? I think the only real reason this happened was because of that. Nothing more. I know it's a selfish and a petty excuse, but this is what this American administration is: selfish and petty. Also, I will say something that I know a lot of people might not like, but I will say it because it's my opinion. And please remember, these are opinions. Okay, these are not calls for military actions, for violence, for whatever you may say. If in any video you see me saying that, it's not me, it's AI. Okay, it's not me. I don't do that. I am against violence. I don't think violence leads to anywhere. I think violence only creates more issues. You might solve a problem right now, like Stalin said, man is a problem, kill man, no problem. Okay, that only works so far, because after you do that action, after you are violent, you are going to lose all the leverage that you might have had. You are going to lose all of the moral authority that you might have. The only way to solve a conflict is to nullify the actions of someone that is aggressive and that does not want to follow the rules, so to speak. Nullify their actions, okay? Analyze their behavior, condemn and punish it adequately. I also don't believe in the death sentence, no matter what crime that person might have committed. If it's a sexual predator, if it's a murderer, if it's someone that is a lunatic, then the place of those people is to be incarcerated in somewhere where they cannot hurt other people, or controlled. But to kill or to condemn someone to be forever, for the rest of their life, inside of a prison cell, that is not correct. Everyone deserves a chance. Okay? If you are a Christian, even the thieves that were being crucified with Christ, even they deserved a chance. One accepted the chance that Christ was giving him. The other one, he did not. But we always have to keep that in mind, because to live in a world that is black and white, when the world itself is gray, that is not a good position to be in, and not a correct one, which is the main issue here. Because also you have to understand this: when you murder, when you execute someone, when you condemn someone to be forever incarcerated, you yourself are polluting your moral compass, your karma, if you want to call it like that, your actions, your thoughts, your feelings. You are also contaminating it with that. I saw a man forgiving the murder of his child in court, and that has to be, of course, the person that did it was convicted to a time, but that has got to be one of the most selfish acts that you can have. Selfless, sorry. Someone that is able to forgive such sin, such evil. But that's beyond the subject of this video, so we can talk about that in another video. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is this: you should not look at this as something that was inevitable, as something that had to happen if you support those type of people, as something that was needed. This was about the worst thing that you can do. And look, even if something good for the Venezuelan people comes out of this, imagine now they are all flower in power and they get the democracy and do this and do that. All of that is going to be contaminated by this moment. This moment, it will forever live in their future. Forever. This stain is going to be there. In the future, someone is going to talk about the current government, whatever or whoever they are, and they're going to say you are here because the Americans put you in power. You have no legitimacy. Even if that government in that current time frame has been democratically elected by the people, they are all going to say that. They are going to say you are here because the Americans put you there. You have no legitimacy to be in power. Get out. And then the cycle returns. And this is, look, and what baffles me is that, and I'm talking about my country, I'm watching people talk about, some condemning it, others supporting it, others and none of them seem to know, want, or dare to touch this very important point. It's not what's going to happen after the action that we should be focusing on. We should be focusing right now in what is going to happen to control damage. But the action itself is what we should be worried about. Because you have a lunatic that sent pardon me, sorry, just had my lunch and I ate a bit lasagna. I love it, and I ate a bit much than I should have. You have a lunatic that is losing support in his homeland, where he's trying to institute an authoritarian regime. It's what he's trying to do. Look, he might be incompetent, he might be sloppy, but that is exactly what he's trying to do. That is getting older, that is getting sicker, that is getting more demented, and the people that are around him, they just say, yes, master, okay? And some of them are probably already controlling it behind him, because he's not there without money, without power, and without influence that someone else is giving him. Make no look, this is not conspiracy theories, okay? Just go and see the list of the supporters of his candidature and all of that. Just go and watch it, or see that meeting that he had with the social media moguls. See Elon with him. Okay, you can see all of this. This is not hard. Okay, I have said this again and again and again and again in my videos. My dad always used to tell me, check the money trail. When you want to know who is going to get benefit by something that happens or something that is said or done, go and see who is going to profit from it. Okay, money trail in the sense it might not be money. Okay, it might be any kind of advantage. That is what you have to focus on. You don't focus in the action itself. The action itself is the completion, the final consequences of something that has been born before. He started by attacking boats. He bombed ports, and now he kidnapped the president of Venezuela and his wife. Let's not forget that little detail too. And you look at what is happening inside of his country, and you see that the Democrats are very sloppy and very slowly trying to regain power, because they want to do everything according to democracy. And then, like I also said in other videos, they are blinded by thinking that everything will be as it was before if they elect a democratic president, and if they do this, and if they do that, and if they... Trump doesn't give a rat's ass about the courts, about anything. He's doing exactly what he wants to do. And also remember, I have this feeling that the military are not very happy about this. I'm certain there is already dissension among the military. And imagine someone in the military decides that this joke has gone too, that both parties, like the Americans say, are the same, that this has gone too far, and you simply, let's take over power. And they take over power. And you will say, oh, all Americans, they are all armed, and we will defend ourselves and this and that. Okay, you will defend yourselves against a tank? If a military column enters in your city, and if you don't give up your weapons, they will shoot you at sight, will you fight too? I know what you're thinking, okay? I would do the same, okay? Like I told you also before, I'm a country boy, okay? I can live off the land. Today, if I wanted, I would grab my knife, I would grab food and water for 2 days, I would disappear into the bushes, and you would only find me if I wanted to. Okay? I grew up in the country. When I wasn't working in the bakery with my dad and my family, okay, when we were not working, my days were spent in the countryside, in the bushes, in the woods, in an area that has a lot of different types of terrains and of resources and all of that. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. Oh, we'll do like Red Dawn and we'll go and we'll fight and this. No, you will not. No, you will not, my friends. We can see by the way that you act. Of course, there will be a couple of people that will create resistance, that will create problems, and I perfectly understand this. But you have to see it in this way. If they control the cities, they could not give a fuck about the hillbillies hiding out in the bushes. You don't understand this, okay? You look at things this way. It would be hard, for example, for someone to invade you. Because in that case, you would have a central government that was opposing it, that was fighting it, and each time those invading forces would occupy terrain, they would face guerrilla attacks from everywhere. It's like stepping into a hornet's nest. But when it's the wasps themselves that know how to deal with you attack, oh, you want to know what you are going to do if they do that? If for any kind of chance you have an authoritarian regime, you are going to shut up and pray that they don't take away your Starbucks. I see you online. The world sees you online. We all see how you are. Only you don't see it. And this is what is effing annoying me about the Democrats. They are talking in a way about, and I'm not talking about their internal policies, not even that. They are talking about the rest of the world as if we are all like this, waiting to see what they are doing. I have said this, I don't know how many times, in Democrat channels, and only one talked about it. I'm not going to say who. I don't want to offend people. Okay, I'm not here to talk bad about other channels. My policy is, if I go into a channel and I don't like it, I try to contribute to the discussion, okay, or I disagree, or I don't watch it. I'm not one of those guys that sits in the comment sections like a keyboard warrior. Oh, you spelled this word bad. No, I have no patience for that shit. That's not me. But Europe last year, I don't know, I think it was in April or something like that, it was even before, signed an agreement, written an international agreement with the Central Asian countries and with China to establish a rail route between China and Europe, bypassing completely Russia, okay, that will haul cargo via rail first in 40 days, and in the future, in half of that time, between Europe and China in Europe. It's a massive investment, but it's already done. It's already on the go. All that you now have to do is to adapt the rail connections. This means that China or Europe will be able to do their economical transactions, their cargo hauls and all of that, completely bypassing the seas. We won't need Panama, we won't need the Suez Channel, we won't need none of that shit. We'll just trade by rail, okay? And 40 days, go and see how, in terms of time, how much time does it take to exchange cargo between Europe and China. Don't believe in what I am telling you. Go and see how much it takes, and also see the risks. Okay, see the risks involved, especially after the shit show that Israel and the United States and all of those lunatics in the Middle East are doing in the Suez Channel. Yeah, I look at people and I see, look, I'm just a simple guy, okay? I didn't finish my degree. I had to go to work, honestly. That is the reason. Work and family. This is why I had to stop my studies, okay? I work every day. I hope to God I can work every day, okay? And even I can see this. And then I watch these people talking about the European oligarchs and this and that, when we know exactly what happens around here. Around here, companies, if they don't obey the law, they are fucked. Here in Portugal, a TV channel is breaking the law. The first consequence is whatever show that was being presented, cancelled. The second one is that news station might be completely banned from existing. Shut down. But that is the atom bomb. Before that, the reporters themselves, they have an organization of reporters, kind of a, we call it ordem, okay? They have an order that regulates their actions to be according to the law. So they themselves can cancel the authorization of that person to be a reporter. And we are the mild ones, okay? You go to other places in Europe, and I'm talking about the EU and other countries in continental Europe, because in the UK, the media in the UK, I would say, without any doubts, 80% of the media is completely controlled by interest groups, okay? And the BBC isn't the worst of them, okay? The BBC still presents a more or less normal way of watching things. And if it has a bias, it's not like Mr. Farage says, a leftist bias, it's a right-wing bias. Ask the Scottish what they think about the BBC. Ask them. Okay? But it's a completely different way of seeing the world. It starts with simple things like food. Here, you can only put something in the food, or you can only use a process to produce food if you prove that that is not bad for people. You cannot use a product just because you think it's going to make the things shiner. We have sugar taxes, we have salt taxes. In the United States, you can use whatever the fuck you want to use in your food, and only if someone is able to prove that that is bad for you, only then will they cancel. And even so, they will probably close their eyes if they are earning enough. In the United States, you pay taxes. In Europe, we pay taxes. Our taxes gives us healthcare, gives us an entire panoply of services, of state services. So, neither of us has free healthcare. Free healthcare doesn't exist. What exists is what I'm at. 1 minute, please. Sorry. I have a bit of a minor cold. What exists is, in terms of taxes, it exists here. Here I pay taxes so that I can have services. And if you live in Portugal, for example, you pay taxes according to your income. So the more you earn, the more taxes you pay. And this applies to everyone, from the wealthiest person in the country to the poorest person in the country. Of course, it's not bloody perfect, okay? You always will find some idiot that is able to escape the system. But that is a bloody minority, and when they are caught, the consequences are very dire, okay? It's not a joking matter. I am look. The worst institution in Portugal is the tax office, because they are bloody ruthless. Because money is very important, especially when you live in a smaller country that has less resources. And even being a smaller country, we have a lot of resources, but we need to count our pennies. Okay, we cannot spend our money without thinking about tomorrow. We have to be constantly thinking about tomorrow, and that is good. Oh, that's not bad. But in the United States, you have to pay to have an insurance. After indirectly, you are already paying for everything. Why? Because your state does not do what ours does, which is it regulates, it controls, and it also pays something into the system itself. But it's regulated. This means that when I go to the... Let me just cover this. When I go into the pharmacy and I buy, for example, the pills that I have to take every morning because of an issue that I'm having with my blood, when I do this, when I go and buy this, 70 or 80% of this is paid by the state. That is paid by my taxes. Do you understand this? You want to know how much I pay for that? Sorry, oh, it's the phone, the earphone. You want to know how much I pay for those blood medicines? Around 3 different medicine. You want to know how much I pay? €2. 2. Because I pay taxes already, and I'm paying according to my income. Okay. If I was a richer, I would pay more, because this is the way things work, and this is the only sane way of doing things. Because at least around here, to have healthcare is a constitutional right. To have food is a constitutional right. To have the ability of living your life, it's a bloody constitutional right. And these rights, they are so important that you cannot even renounce them. This is why Americans are very amazed that when they arrive here, okay, the employer tells them to go and have your vacation. Get out of here. No, you cannot work. No, we are not going to contact you by email. Go away. Because they know the consequences of breaking that law. And also they know something very important, that is this. European workers, in average, are more productive than the Americans, with all the so-called rights. Okay? And they may, we have that go-get-it spirit and this and that. Okay, you have all of that, but you don't have the productivity. The United States has the same productivity as a couple of countries in Europe. But on average, we are more productive. Even with all of these rights, even with all this so-called time off. And then you see Americans arriving at a piazza in a square, no place with cafes and all of that in Italy, and they are all amazed and see the Europeans at Saturday afternoon after lunch having their espresso and eating their pastry and talking and smoking outside, because you can smoke outside here in most of the places. And I hear this comment from a dumb American: don't these people work? Bunch of fucking lunatics. Of course they work. Some of them might be lazy bastards, but who am I? Why should I care about that? It's their life, and it's their relationship with the state. The state has to see if they are stealing money from someone, or if they are working and not declaring their income, whatever. That's their issue with the state. Me, I pay my taxes and I go around my merry way. Because that is another thing that you Americans don't understand. We have rights. And the first right, the cardinal right, pardon me, the cardinal right, you want to know what it is? Don't meddle with other people's business. Why should you care if someone is gay, if someone is trans, if someone is a Satanist, if someone is a pagan, if someone worships whatever the hell they want to worship? As long as that person is civil, pays its taxes, and doesn't bother you, couldn't care less. I could not care less. And you are constantly meddling into other people's business. And here we arrive at the point I was trying to make. Meddling in Venezuela's business. Interfering. Saying my way is better. It's the Venezuelans themselves that have to get rid of Mr. Maduro and all of the dictators. It's the job of the Chinese to get rid of the one-party system and establish a democratic rule. It's their business, not mine. Who am I to preach? Who are you to preach to others? And you'll say, oh, this way they will take over. No, because you counter their actions. But you don't counter their actions like this. The United States, if it had a decent president, he could arrange a meeting with the president of Venezuela. And he will tell you this: look, you are going to give these rights to these people. We are going to do this, we are going to do that. And I am going to bring in my companies. We are going to establish partnerships, and we are going to bring you jobs, bring you money, bring you taxes, and make your life better. And this is what soft power is. And if you look around the world, you will see that Europe, Canada, and especially China, they are filling in the places where the United States used to do that. The United States, I think it was Carter, the president, came here to Portugal after the revolution and after a couple of 2 years of attempt of installing a Soviet regime here after the revolution, and with a potential civil war happening. They came here, they gathered people around, they gathered both sides around, they calmed the waters, they act as a referee and as an investor. Them, the Germans and the French. Especially the Germans. I remember a German diplomat that talked about that. I remember in school, okay, because I was a kid, I was born after the revolution. Not very long after it. I'm old, but after it, okay, and of course I don't remember anything of those days. Naturally, I was a baby. But they came here and they acted as referees. They acted as investors, and they were able to help us to stabilize the country. And then the country stabilized. It had some rough spots, okay, but it stabilized. And today it's a stable nation. It has its issues. Yes, it has, my friends. France has its issues. Spain has its issues, okay. Some imaginary nation in the middle of Africa has its issues. Everyone has its issues. Canada has its issues. Everyone has it. to look for perfection in humanity is a fruitless search. We all have our issues. The issue here, the real issue, is how we do with it. And in my opinion, I'm going to wait and see, but in my opinion, this is a rogue action by a rogue state. This is the only way I can qualify this. It's against international law. And whatever you hear from other states now, I would take it with extreme caution. Just like right now, only a few YouTubers are talking about this matter. But me, I have no issues with it. Okay, I speak about things. I'm giving you my opinion right now. This is my opinion right now in this moment, because this is how I work. Now, I'm going to end this video. I don't want to make it too long. If you are in America, I hope you are safe. This is the only thing I'm going to say. Sorry, and I wish you good luck. Now, thank you everyone for listening to my little video, my little analysis. Remember, take it with a pinch of salt. These are just my opinions, absolutely nothing more. Okay, I have no agenda. I have no bias. My only bias is being a human, being a person, being a decent and logic person, and not some emotional fool. Okay, and I don't see a bright future for us all. Honestly, I don't. But let's see. I'm not. Some people say I'm a pessimist, but I'm not a pessimist. I'm a pragmatic person. Okay, because I have discovered that the only thing that doesn't fails us in life is logic. Everything else, hopes, dreams, emotions, all of that fails us. Logic, it does not, because logic is based on facts, and facts don't lie. You can interpret facts as you will, but in the end, whatever has to happen will happen. That's all I have to say. Well, sorry, folks. Thank you all for listening, and